back, and the Alberta government says it will now ban works from school libraries in that province if they contain explicit images of sexual acts. The government had originally planned to ban works containing written descriptions, but they rewrote the order after a ban list was leaked from the Edmonton School Board that included more than 200 books, including some classics like The Handmaid's Tale. Well, Alberta's Education Minister Dimitrios Nicolaitis said the goal has always been to keep harmful materials out of schools.
Any material that includes visual depictions of sexual activities, that's our concern and has always been our concern from the very beginning.
So that was Alberta's Education Minister. And for more on this, with me in studio now is Shannon Ozirny. She is the head of youth services at the West Vancouver Memorial Library. Thank you so much for coming in.
My pleasure.
Good to see you. Now, I know you work at a public library. It has a lot of differences from a school library as well. But as you have been watching this whole story unfold, I mean, what concerns do you have about how the Alberta government has been approaching this issue?
Yeah, it's so interesting to watch this as an information professional. Librarians don't have a bat signal yet, but I think if we did, this would certainly have triggered it. I think this really shows how difficult it is to roll out a book ban. And in my opinion, this is what they are trying to do. It's been a bit of a bumbling process, a little bit of back and forth. I think the most egregious thing about this, though, is there's an implication that school libraries and public libraries are full of graphic sexual material for kids and teens. And that's simply not the case. Librarians are not, trench coat wearing predators who sort of open one side of our coat and say, hey, what do you want to read today? This latest iteration of the ban, they're saying no graphic sexual images for young people. There's maybe a handful of books, I'm thinking of comics or graphic novels, targeted at ages usually 14 plus, that sometimes depict some sexual imagery related to victimization or trauma, or sometimes some fantasy imagery. But we're really talking about a small handful of books that are published for older teen readers. So the whole premise of the ban feels inflammatory. It seems to be addressing a problem that may simply not exist.
So when a government comes down with a fairly broad order like this, how much pressure or workload does that put on library staff who are responsible for implementing it?
A lot. And I know this latest list that the Edmonton School Board tried to put together using the first iteration of this ban. Somebody or some people did this on their summer vacation. And it was an attempt to try and adhere to it and then to sort of be reprimanded for, quote unquote, not doing it right. Library professionals, library workers, teacher librarians, public librarians, our goal is to match young people with age-appropriate material. Librarians don't have an agenda, and books themselves are inanimate objects that sit on the shelf, right? Books are not sort of waiting to leap out in front of a child or teen and force them to read it. There seems to be just so much distraction and kind of really fantastic things being ascribed to the power of books or the agenda of librarians that simply don't exist. We are there to pair a book with a reader, and readers need all types of different books.
Well, and one criticism that has been, common with bans like this, and that would be Alberta more recently, also similar bans in the United States as well, they tend to disproportionately affect works with queer themes. How concerned are you about that?
Absolutely. When you take a book off a shelf, you are erasing that experience. I've been in many situations over my last 15 years in libraries where a family has come in and they're looking for a certain type of book and we don't have it. Not because of censorship, but maybe just a gap in our collection. And that experience of not being able to give somebody a book that they need or that they're looking for is devastating. And I would love some of these politicians to be at an information desk or be talking to a young person that is coming to a library, right? What better place to look for information? Much better, I would say, than the internet or up here on, in the schoolyard. And to be turned away and to say, your experience matters so little, we don't even have a book on it, is really transformational in a negative way.
You know, there's a group called Parents for Choice in Education. They seem to have been one of the main groups behind this push from the Alberta government. And I want you to just hear a little bit of a clip from that group's executive director. This is John Hilton O'Brien, something he said to our colleagues at CBC Edmonton.
Honestly, anyone who pretends that this is censorship is really saying that they should have the right to show sexual images to other people's children without their parents' consent.
Again, that's John Hilton O'Brien from Parents for Choice in Edmonton. Shannon, what do you make of his argument, making material like this available in school library, bypassing the rights of parents to have a say in what their kids are exposed to?
I have to say I'm a parent, and I absolutely agree that parents should have the right to talk to their kids about different issues, including gender identity and sexual identity when they're ready to have those conversations. Again, librarians are not, there's no jump scares here. We are not jumping out of the stacks with books open and, toothpicks at the ready to prop any teen or kid's eyes open. These are books that exist on a shelf. And you know what? I'm not interested in hockey. So if I see a book about hockey, I keep walking by. And I know for a lot of kids or teenagers, if they see a book about, having a crush on someone of the same sex and that doesn't interest them, they will also walk on by.
Still, but you're a youth librarian. Are there simply some themes that you deem, too mature for certain ages?
Within, you have to remember these books, most of them are, these are published by mass market publishers. Librarians aren't buying nude photos from a grifter under a bridge, and making it available in the library. Most of these books are award-winning. They have been reviewed by multiple publications. And I have seen all different needs from all different families. And I'm really hesitant to put any sort of label on that. But I should say that there are no sexually, graphically explicit visuals that would be available to anybody, under the age of 14 or 15.
Okay. While we have you here, there's another story that I'd like to get your thoughts on because we've just learned this winter the Stanley Park is going to be hosting a Harry Potter experience, a ticketed event, replaces Bright Night. So there's been some criticism about Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling's anti-trans activism as well. Just as a librarian, how do you navigate engaging with material like the Harry Potter series?
This is so tricky. It's a really tricky question in terms of separating art from an artist. And I think it speaks to, again, having information professionals and librarians that believe in intellectual freedom like I do. I really want parents and families to make informed choices. I know in my work I'm getting a lot more questions like, can you recommend something like Harry Potter but is not Harry Potter and not by J.K. Rowling? And I really see my job is to meet the needs of families, both the families who want to continue reading her works and those that are actively looking for alternatives. The good news is there are so many wonderful alternatives to Harry Potter by more inclusive authors.
Something for everyone. Is
Yes.
that what you're saying? Shannon, we appreciate your time. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks.
That is Shannon Ozirny, the head of youth services at the West Vancouver Memorial Library. If you're a parent, teacher, librarian, your thoughts are always welcome on the coast at cbc.ca.